From his elite-level grappling skills to his terrifying professional record, here's why fighters are really scared of Beneil Dariush. To casual MMA fans, the name Beneil Dariush may not be too familiar. But to us hardcore fans, we know Dariush is one of the most terrifying lightweights on the UFC's roster. With the 33-year-old set to face off with former champion Charles Oliveira at UFC 288, I think it's safe to say that Beneil will be getting a shot at the title soon, and the flowers we all know he deserves. I mean, seriously, this guy has been in the UFC for almost 10 years, racking up victory after victory, and showcasing his elite-level fighting skills. And in all fairness, Dariush's hard work has paid off, as he's currently ranked number 4 in the UFC's lightweight division. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why fighters are terrified of this guy, and it's safe to say that right up there on that list are Beneil Dariush's elite grappling skills. As we've all seen in the sport of MMA, an advanced grappling game can often be what makes or breaks a fighter as they reach the upper echelons of the sport. Many current and former UFC champions, such as John Jones, Kamaru Usman, and Henry Cejudo, have come from an elite wrestling background, and their skills have helped to propel them to the top of their divisions. Even the great former lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov was known more for his elite grappling than his decisive striking. It seems that when you get to the upper ranks of the sport, a high-level grappling game is necessary. And that's exactly what Beneil has. Dariush is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a feat he was able to accomplish in just 5 short years. Before entering into mixed martial arts, he was a Nogi world champion at both blue, purple, and brown belts. The guy's dangerous on the ground. When everyone was cowering away from fighting the Dagestani wrestler and the current lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, Dariush welcomed the opportunity, unfazed by his opponent's reputation, saying, "I don't really think about Islam, I think about me. What do I do in my fights? I'm a grappler, so I'm not going to be like, oh, he's a grappler, I can't grapple. Of course I'm going to grapple." That was a pretty fearless approach at the time, considering most fighters were terrified of the oppressive wrestling style Dagestani fighters had become known for. Although that fight ultimately didn't take place, as Dariush pulled out due to injury. He showed that he's so confident in his ground game that he'll take on anyone, no matter their reputation. Now, as well as being an elite grappler, Dariush has proven time and time again that his chin is made of pure iron. And that's bad news for anybody who steps in the cage with him. There's nothing more disheartening than throwing your best combinations, putting your heart and soul into every punch, just to find your opponent still standing there, coming forward. Well, that's exactly what happened to Drakkar Klose when he fought Beneil at UFC 248. After an uninteresting first round, which Dariush spent most of on Drakkar's back like a rucksack, it seemed the pair came into the second determined to put on a good show. Drakkar came forward, landing a furious flurry of punches, visibly wobbling Dariush. The crowd went wild, thinking the fight would soon be over with Beneil on the canvas. But much to their surprise, Dariush recovered and rushed forward, burying Drakkar with vicious shots that sent him down to the octagon floor. Beneil's chin must be made of steel, or stone, or something. Even Drakkar looked surprised when he wouldn't go down. A fighter who could take that kind of punishment and come back to win by TKO? That's gotta be terrifying for any contender. Now, one of the traits that make Dariush so petrifying to other fighters, but has also likely contributed to his relative anonymity, is the Iranian-born fighter's complete aversion to trash talk. I mean, seriously. Recently, whilst making an appearance on former middleweight champion and UFC commentator Michael Bisping's podcast, Bisping attempted to instigate Dariush into talking at least a little bit of trash. Beneil explained that he rarely talks smack about his opponents, trying to keep it respectful so that his kids will have a good role model when they look back on his career. What a stand-up guy! But his lack of trash talk, coupled with his aggressive style in the octagon, kinda gives the terrifying impression that Dariush doesn't fight for money or glory. If you ask me, Beneil fights just because he loves beating up fighters. The guy's an absolute monster in the cage, and he seems pretty content to keep doing things the way he has been, as long as the UFC feeds him more prey. And I know that's gotta strike fear in his fellow contenders' hearts. Speaking of heart, Dariush has shown nothing but heart throughout his career, and his indomitable spirit is definitely something fighters might want to consider before challenging him. In 2017, Dariush suffered a devastating knockout loss to Edson Barboza, which was the first of a 3-fight losing streak that left the young fighter on the verge of being dropped by the UFC and reconsidering his career as a fighter. Despite these troubles, Dariush was able to make a triumphant comeback in 2018 with a dominant victory over Thiago Moises. And since then, the fighter has been on an impressive winning streak, with his name being suggested for a title shot. Any fighter who can make it back from such dire consequences is going to be a serious problem for his opponents. Now, while we have discussed Dariush's elite grappling, the guy's no slouch when it comes to his striking either. In fact, Beneil has one of the most well-rounded and terrifying fighting styles in the lightweight division. He incorporates dynamic striking into his technique, so you never know how he's going to take you out. Just take his 2020 bout against Scott Holtzman. After dominating Scott for the majority of the first round, with less than a minute left to go, Dariush executed a textbook spinning back fist, knocking Holtzman out cold. I mean, this KO was truly a thing of beauty. For Dariush, it was just another clip to add to the highlight reel. He showed any potential contenders that he can shut their lights out whenever he wants. Oliveira better be careful in their upcoming bout. Now, since his UFC debut, back in 2014, Dariush has put his truly spectacular fighting skills to good use, amassing an impressive professional record that would make any fighter think twice before stepping into the octagon with him. Beneil can boast more than 22 wins to his name, and with only 4 losses and 1 draw, his professional record is one of the best in the division. But that's not all. Since 2018, Beneil has been on an astounding 8-fight win streak. If I didn't know any better, I'd say the guy's looking pretty invincible at this point. So, there you have it, folks. If you're not convinced that Dariush is one of the best in the game, perhaps even next in line for a well-earned title shot, then I'd say you're just a hater. He's proved time and time again that he's a dominant force in the division. And if I was a lightweight contender, I'd do everything I could to avoid the guy. So, from his elite-level grappling skills to his terrifying professional record, that's why fighters are really scared of Beneil Dariush.